All right, guys, it looks like we're live. Welcome to Top Trades Sell-Off Edition, Momentum Sell-Off Edition. I'm here back with Enrique this week. How's it going, Enrique?
Good, good. I headed out home to Arizona, and schedule didn't quite work to get on here, but happy to be back. To join you here on Top
Yeah.
Trades.
This is not a slight against you at all. Everybody loves to see you, but they were excited because Matt hasn't been on in a while, and we got a fundamental Matt update on all of his positions. We didn't argue about Palantir, but we did discuss Palantir, talking about whether or not it would go from where it was last Tuesday, which was its last green candle, I think, coincidentally. I'm not claiming that I foretold this drawdown right here, but we did a little poll in the chat, and we asked if people thought it was going to 90 first or 140 first. I said 90. I said that it was overextended, but it could keep going a little bit longer. I said, but I felt that it would start filling that gap. And we had some interesting answers. I think it was like 50-50 maybe in the
So
pool right there. So
I'll tell you the most interaction I've gotten on X Twitter in the last 3 weeks was actually a post that I put up that said, "Is Palantir more likely to be at 80 or 120 next?" That was probably 3 days ago,
ooh,
and I guess
yes,
we're answering that question pretty darn quick.
yeah, I see.
I didn't do a poll. I just did a comment, but it got a lot of interaction. But didn't we, before I left, we were talking about Palantir. I
Yeah,
mean, and the thing we said, I mean, I'm just going to kind of jump into this because you and I were just talking about it, is we said that there was a little crazy happening in the market with things like Palantir, things like Robinhood. These
yep,
are great companies. We're not saying anything like that. But when you have a chart, pull up that Palantir chart, 1 gajillion miles extended
yeah,
from the 50-day moving average, which is a million miles above the 100-day, which is a million miles above the 200-day.
yeah,
Guess what? Gravity, and if you get the moving averages on there, really, I mean that's probably the 200-day. You can see how far it was above there. But this is what happens. This is
yep,
what happens. This is normal. This isn't abnormal. Abnormal would be if it kept on going up. That gets worse. This is what's
yeah,
supposed to happen in a healthy
yeah,
market.
yeah. And I think there's a lot to be said about this, but what it comes down to is there was a lot of charts that looked exactly the same in these momentum groups. Like you pull up, like, I mean, yes, they're their own companies. There's Palantir, but you look at Palantir and Robinhood, exact same chart,
Yeah.
all intents and purposes, right there. You had the gap up after earnings, and then what comes afterward. And I think what happens in these situations is like we were discussing a little bit earlier. You get the recency bias of, oh, Palantir up 30% this week. That's totally normal. And then the next week, it's like, oh my God, your hair's on fire because Palantir's down 30%. It's like,
Well,
I think was going to happen.
and what I get a kick out of is like when Palantir's up 30%, people are like, and you kind of just said it, it's like, yeah, this is how it's supposed to work. Palantir
Right.
is awesome. It's supposed to go up 30% a week. And when it goes down 30% the next week, everyone's like, the world's ending.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
no, they go hand in hand. But you said something that I say all the time on the Maverick, and I say it here, is people will often ask me about a group of stocks, and I'll just be very dismissive, and I'll just be like, oh, it's just the same stock. And they'll be like, what are you talking about? This is an online broker, and the other's a security software company. I'm like, yeah, no, I get that. But you got to understand that when you're buying stocks, you are not buying companies. You're buying products, you're buying bands. And until you get that in your head, you're never going to be a good or certainly great trader. And so, you just have to understand. And let me I want to say something about momentum stocks here. Okay. Because this is a big, when I started in this business in the mid 90s, that was the first time, honestly, we ever really saw what would be called momentum stocks. Okay. And what's a momentum stock? A momentum stock is a stock that moves up because it's moving up. Okay. Now I'm going to say that and you're going to be like, what the heck are you talking about? But I'll be honest with you. Back in the 80s and 90s, we had crazy stuff going on, but it was really only in the mid 90s to late 90s and with the internet that we got to this point where people were like, I don't care if I'm paying 50 or 100 or 200 or 300 times. And so Well, I was very bad at trading momentum stocks, back then. No one was any good at trading them. But through the years, I learned. And the thing about momentum stocks is this, I'm going to say three things to think about. And Palantir is momentum stock ground zero. So is Hood.
Yes.
Number one, to become a true momentum stock, you have to start with good raw material. Palantir is a really cool company and they've been beating numbers. Okay. So, like, it doesn't just happen out of thin air. You do get meme stocks, I guess, and all that. But to become a real true momentum stock, pull up my favorite, Talon. Talon has become a momentum stock. Okay. The difference between Talon and Palantir is Talon actually still trades at a reasonable valuation and all that, even though the stock was up a lot. Now, mind you, it wasn't up as much as Palantir. But number one, momentum stocks start with real companies. Number two, this is the most important, okay? Momentum stocks go up because they're going up. What happens is stock goes up 10% last week. Bunch of people who want to buy stocks that were up 10% say, where are stocks that were up 10%? Oh, that stock was up 10%. I'm going to buy that. Well, now it goes up 20% this week. A bunch of people who buy stocks that were up 20% last week, they go up and it builds. It has nothing to do with the company. It doesn't really matter. The company needs to be good enough, but people are buying because other people are buying. And this is the final piece of this, okay? And this is what we're seeing right now. Momentum stocks, sorry, George Noble, I'll slow down. Momentum stocks never correct by going sideways. Momentum stocks go up or they go down. Those are the only two ways that they'll go. And so I want to remind you about this. The next time you're sitting on top of a Palantir, okay, where you just made 122% in 6 weeks, it's going to go down. It's going to go down a lot. And if you don't take profits, you are going to be very, very upset with yourself. This is normal. This isn't crazy. This is the physics of momentum stock trading. And until you kind of, click into that, it can be very frustrating because a lot of people, A, give up a lot of returns and B, lose a lot of money.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's why it's also super important to lay out what your goal is with a trade or investment before you get into it and do your best to stick to that. I think that's what trips people up in a lot of these. Not only the fact that they get caught up in the big move, but they buy a stock because it's going up, but they don't have a time frame in mind. And then when they don't know what they're going to do and they don't have some predetermined plan to decide what they're going to do, they get caught in a downdraft like this and they panic.
And they also don't have a target. You go into it and you say, well, my target's going to make, I want to make money. And then you make 50%. Look, I'll give you some very simple rules. Here's a rule. Okay. I honestly, these rules will help you out. If you double your money in a stock in a month or less, sell 50, 60% every time. And then I'm going to give you my second favorite rule. If you get past 5 days, the 3 to 10 day rule, if you make 30% in 3 days, take some off. You make 40% in 4 days, take some off. My favorite one is actually if you make 50% in 5 days, take some off. That one always works. Okay. And it may not work a week later or a month later, but I'm going to tell you, like Palantir, it sure as heck works 3 months later. And you're just going to be happier. You're just going to be a happier person. I love that double, take 60% off. Now you got a 20% return on your original capital, and the rest is free and it does whatever it does. So, put yourself on winning psychology when you're trading momentum stocks, and they can become powerful, powerful tools. If not, you become a victim of them instead.
Yeah. Yeah. That's a really good point. And, again, I think, and we've touched on this a little bit, but we kind of dove right into the Palantir issue. The bigger sell-offs right now are coming from these momentum stocks. The rest of the market, it really hasn't spread that far just yet. I mean, yes, there are some of the bigger stocks that are down today. A lot of tech names are down today, and there's a little bit of selling there. But for the most part, I mean, let's not lose sight of the fact that, we just hit new all-time highs last week, and the market's not broken here.
Well, it's not even close, dude. Like last Wednesday, we hit a new all-time high in the S&P. We also last week hit a new all-time high in the SPW, which is the equal weighted. We hit a new all-time high in the NASDAQ. Sorry, we didn't hit a new all-time high in the SPW, but we were at a recent high, but we did in the S&P. And, what I find so interesting, and I find it very bullish right now, I'm looking at my screen and we've got all of the Maverick trades in here. Everything in the Maverick, except for two things, is up today. And it's because we're not really, we weren't chasing AI stocks. We were buying stuff that had pulled back. The SPW is down, 7 basis points today with the S&P down 1 and the NAS down almost 2. I think what we're seeing a little DeepSeek part 2 into NVIDIA earnings tomorrow. Yeah. And it's coming off of the high. And because we're coming off a high in the markets, I'm not at all worried. The other thing I'm not worried about is, we literally had every single hyperscaler come out and say, sorry, I dropped a pen. Hyperscaler come out and up their CapEx. And with them all investing their CapEx, I think NVIDIA numbers are going to be fine. So, this is healthy, in my opinion. Yeah. This is how we set up for a breakout to new highs.
Yeah. And I think, you touched on the big elephant in the room right here, which is I think everybody is waiting for NVIDIA to save the market right here. It has been slipping a little bit right back down to its 200-day here. Won't that be perfect? Perched on its 200-day, awaiting these earnings tomorrow afternoon. I have no insight as to how much they're going to beat or what their numbers are going to be or any opinion on that. But I do think it's going to be, especially in this environment, it's going to be difficult to really impress people and get people to really chase this thing like a lot higher from here is kind of my read on this. Do you agree or disagree with my take there on this?
I basically agree. Look, what's the past performance is the best indicator of future performance. What's this stock done for 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 months? Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. So you know what I think it's going to do tomorrow? I think they're going to actually report much better than expected numbers because of what we've heard from the hyperscalers. Right. I think they're going to have very positive guidance. I think that's going to keep a bid underneath the market and keep things from collapsing. And I don't think the stock's going to do a whole heck of a lot. Look, it could be at 140 again tomorrow, but you know what? It was at 140 on Friday. So I just think we're caught there. But what's happening, and you hear people talking about it, we're seeing this very natural rotation. AI, Mag 7, they're fine. There's nothing wrong with them. They're just not powering the market anymore. But the rest of the areas like financials, pull something up that I just saw today. Pull up I think you could do it. Pull up the yield on the 10-year bond, by the way.
The TNX.
Yeah. I know I pull it up on Bloomberg as G210. So yeah. So everyone's complaining. Do you remember at the beginning of the year where it's like, oh, rates are going to 6 and inflation's unstoppable and the dollar will never stop going up. And we sat here and we said, no, that's not how this works. All you're doing, you just have too many people on one side. You had too many people on one side of the trade in September. Now you got too many people in January. And lo and behold, here we are. And rates are lower. Rates have fallen. Let's put it this way. Since Trump came into office, basically, rates have fallen 50 basis points. Yeah. Stick that in your cup and drink it. No, because there's so much noise out there. I'm not some huge Trump fan. No, I'm just saying, we literally have seen rates. So, and then go to do what you were doing there, because it's going to get back to my view on rates. Is kind of go back, pull the chart, to get more. Look, there you go. Since 2022, or the beginning of mid 22, rates have done nothing. So what do I think rates are going to do? I think rates are going to do nothing. I think they're a nothing variable. The variable that counts here, there is a variable that counts. There's two, in my opinion. Number one is earnings. And overall, we had a very strong earnings season in Q1. It was the strongest year over year earnings season that we've had in 5 or 6 quarters. And number two, I do think that there's this Trump anxiety trade or Trump anxiety out there. And this isn't political at all. This is people are not sure what he's going to do. I'm fairly confident, based on his history across 30 years, he's going to threaten a lot, get some stuff, and not end up changing all that much economically in terms of like tariffs and these other things. He's actually, I think he cares deeply about the bond markets, and he cares deeply, deeply about the stock market. And I think that if we get through another quarter or two of good earnings, which NVIDIA will kind of kick off here, and we get through tariffs, and yeah, there's tariffs, but they're not crazy. And the Russia thing, there's some settlement and it's not crazy. I think we're at coiled spring. And I feel good about saying that, because guess what? We were at new highs a week ago. Yeah. So this ain't a bear market, it ain't even close at this point.
Yeah. Well, I think it's natural though to have some anxiety over the Trump issue. And I do think you're right. I do think he floods the zone with a lot of noise and then narrows in on certain activities or actions. I get that. But I think there's a lot of people too who are like nervous about, okay, what's going to happen with unemployment if we do end up firing this huge block of federal workers? I don't know if that's even going to happen. And
hold on 1 second. Hold on 1 second. 300,000 federal workers is the higher end of what they're saying. Do you know how many jobs we added in the last jobs report? I mean, we can debate about whether these jobs. The average jobs report has been 150 to 250,000 workers. Yeah. By the way, I don't think the number is going to be anywhere close to that. But this is my point. But look, what's the famous saying? And I know you know this one and love it. A bull market climbs a wall of worry. Okay. Yeah. This is just classic wall of worry. We're just climbing up it, continue to climb it up it. And it always, everyone's like, the thing that annoys me, well, it doesn't annoy me. I'm very used to it. I listen to CNBC, and everyone's like, this is uncertainty like anything unlike anything we've ever seen in our lifetimes. And I'm like, I was through September 11, bro. Like, this is not that uncertain. I got to tell you, this is pretty chill on the relative scale. So I think that's where you get the context of the experience, and you can play it through. So this is all just very natural. I think that we've got a really nice bite at the apple on a lot of the momentum names. I'd be patient. I'd start legging in. At the Maverick, we only had one. Actually, before yesterday, we had no momentum names like AI names. We put one on yesterday, kind of maybe two. And I'm just going to wait. Every people know the names we're talking about, like the IPPs and things like this. I'm just going to wait for, every 10% down and add a new name. And that's what you do in a bull market. And let me just say, because there is one comment here in the chat, I'm not disavowing the human cost of any of this. I fully understand that. I'm simply making a commentary about the impact on the overall economy. Obviously, the impact to individual families and such to the DC area could be rather large. But also, I'll tell you what I think is going to happen. I think that when all is said and done, what happens is the growth in the federal workforce just slows down or goes to zero, and the reduction's 85,000 on 2.6 million, not 850,000. There had been no breaks, and this is why the inflation numbers have come in reasonably hot, and the 10-year bond is down 50 basis points. It's the first crack of daylight on government spending and the deficits that we've seen, certainly since COVID, I probably even longer. So I think the net result is going to be much less crazy, volatile, bad that people think. Again, the personal, someone that's involved in this personally, my condolences. I've lost a job before, all these things. So I can't. I want to be careful. We're talking about stocks and economics here.
Yeah, no, I totally get that. Yeah, and I think a lot of that's true. I think it's like we talked about when Trump was first inaugurated and how quick everything was and how the market adjusts to the noise. I think we are adjusting to that noise right here. And now, for me, I look at this momentum self and feel like this is a natural occurrence. This is what has to happen in the markets. We have to have these resets like this. But also, I mean, damn if the seasonality isn't lining up just perfectly with what you think it would. Like markets tend to get weak the later weeks of February and into March right here. I mean, we really are in that spot where you would expect something like this to happen. And we've talked about that in the chat too, being like I'm not saying like it's time to like go all in and start betting against stuff, but at the same time, we have to be aware that this is the time of year when the markets change a little bit and we're going to see some rotation, and we need to respect that and just be ready to get on top of things as this continues to hold right here.
And I made this comment the other day. I don't remember whether I made it on the Maverick or I made it here. I probably made it on both. I know what the end of this bull market looks like, most likely. It looks like the blow off top we saw in 1999. Okay. And if you recall, we pulled that chart up in the NASDAQ. And the NASDAQ from December of 99 to January of 2000 was up like 40%. 40% in one of the largest stock indices in the world. And that's what a blow off top looks like. And that's when you get really scared. You know what we're seeing right now in Palantir and Hood? We're seeing the opposite of that. We're seeing the little frothing of the blow off tops, but getting like shut down. And that to me, you can see there, go from right there. So what's that, October to
80%, October to March top. Yeah.
6 months, 80%. Yeah. That's what a blow off top looks like. If you remember what was happening in 2022, NFTs, I'm just going to leave. That's going to be my hallmark of it. So what does a top look like? A top looks like NFTs. A top looks like an 80% move in the NASDAQ in 6 months. This doesn't look like a top. This looks like the opposite of a top. This looks like a natural wall of worry. We're cycling through. Breadth is expanding. And so I'll tell you what the strategy is right now. And the people who subscribe to the Maverick are going to see it. We're just going to pick these up. We're just going to take every one of these winners, the ones that we like the most, the ones that have the best fundamentals, the ones that are not going to be dependent. Because, I am skeptical on NVIDIA probably in the back half of the year. We're just going to pick them up. Every down 10%, we're just going to buy another one. And just like we did off DeepSeek, where we booked a half a dozen winners in like 10 days. I mean, a bunch of 20% winners in a week. I think that you're going to see that kind of opportunity. And look, I think the catalyst will actually be the NVIDIA earnings. I think this could happen pretty quick because I think NVIDIA earnings is going to be fine. And you get all this stuff pops back and begins to recycle through.
I think another thing to think about too is that it's really easy to get caught up emotionally when you see these popular stocks sell off right here. But I want to flip the script on that and say, well, maybe you were sitting on the sidelines. Maybe you saw Palantir go up and you say, shoot, I missed it. Or like Robinhood or any of these other big stocks, these big popular stocks. You missed Meta's 20 days in a row up or whatever. You didn't miss anything because there's always going to be that new opportunity after these resets come around. And so you need to flip that thinking around and being like, oh, well, that's done and that's gone. This is the time to really start paying attention to see where these stocks land, where they start to consolidate, which ones are the strongest coming out of these moves right here, because you can pick out those new leaders after these resets.
And it's not even the new leaders. Go pull up the chart of Hood. Let's go through Hood for a second. Go to January of last year, okay? This was a $10 stock. And, back in March, the stock went to 20 and was super extended. And there was good things happening at Hood. There's a very positive fundamental story at Robinhood, okay? And we could go through that in another call or something. But it went to 20. It doubled in 2 months. And then you know what it did? It hung out for another 2-3 months. It went down, 25%. That was real painful. Then it went up to 25. Then it went down in August. You got cut in half in 2 weeks. Yeah. But then what it did is it clawed its way back up. And then right into the election, it got cut, again. And so to your point about missing it, like you haven't missed anything, right? You could have missed it at 20. back
Yeah.
last year. You could have missed it at 30. You know, the stock's just coming off 65. So now's the time that you start to get, you know, with something like Hood. And I'm kind of particular. I will buy charts, but I also like to buy fundamentals, like in the stuff that I'm buying charts. You know, the funny thing is just buying the charts probably enough. But if I've got the fundamentals underneath it, that's what helps. That's why I like Talon so much.
Sure.
You know, pull that one up. It's just that, you know, you got a company buying back stock that's got, you know, contracted revenue and earnings that could eventually get bought. You know, I like Hood a lot too. But to your point about missing it, you haven't missed anything. And maybe let's talk about, you know, what I'm getting really excited about, which I had been in the, I really like intermediate term, you should own it. But now I'm actually thinking I may actually go out and buy some today. And we'll talk about some other things that we spoke about, like GameStop and Booz Allen. Look at Bitcoin.
I've heard of it.
Yeah, exactly.
Bitcoin. What do they make? What's this company?
For the most part, they've just made people money through time. But you know, look, you didn't miss Bitcoin. Is Bitcoin still going to 250? Nothing changed.
Yeah.
You know, we're still debasing currency. Trump's still pro Bitcoin. We're still in a bull market. This is the day when you buy Bitcoin.
I think it might get a little difficult for a while. We might see some more chop along here. It might have to go revisit 80 or maybe lower or something like that. But yeah, I think I don't think any longer term.
But you know how you do that? Because I think you bring up a great point. Is I'll say this, with Bitcoin down, let's see, what's it down from last the 20th? That's 5 trading. That's not even 5 trading days. Oh yeah, it's because it trades all the time. Yeah. It's from 97 to 87,000. So it's down 12% in 5 days.
Yeah.
You buy some, and you say I would have a full position at 70,000.
Yeah.
Let's divide. Let's go 85, 80, 75, 70. You know, you say at 70,000, I'd own 100. So right now I buy 40, and then I'm going to buy 20 down every 5,000. So then I have 100 at 70,000. But then what you set yourself up for is, I'm going to tell you, I think it's just as likely that Bitcoin bounces and gets back to that consolidation range by the end of this week. And then at least
it loves to fake people out. It loves to dip below those ranges and then rip, and then it everybody's stops go off, and then it just shoots up.
Yeah. Well, this is the thing: is in long-term uptrends, you know, you buy things when they pull back, not when they break out, in my opinion. Okay. Sure. With long-term uptrends, like, you know, in long-term consolidations, which is what you do, you buy the breakouts. But like, you know, I prefer to buy the breakdowns in long-term uptrends. And look, you have to make a decision if something changed. With Bitcoin, I get to those things that I just said. Are we no longer in a bull market? Well, we got a long ways to go before we decide that. Are rates going to the moon? Well, actually, they're doing the opposite. Do we have an unfriendly government regime? Oh, wait, that's going the opposite too. You know, the worst thing I can say about Bitcoin is that maybe government spending will be less and there'll be less money printing. I don't know. Yeah, I think Bitcoin's very, very interesting. Bitcoin's the most interesting it's been in 6 months. How about that?
I like that. I feel like I need to go find a radio station and go buy one of those soundboards so I can do, like, if you say, like, I think I might go out buy something, I can press some sort of alarm button. We need to get the tech guys on this so we can have some sound effects.
We need the Kramer board where he's got all those like sounds. Like you realize Kramer, he's got a woman moaning that he's used for like 20. I was listening on the radio because I listened to CNBC on the radio, and I was just like, I took a step back. I'm like, he's got some woman moaning. Like, what the hell? Like, I don't mind it, but like it's. You know.
Yeah, I guess we can't do all this. It is too Kramer. We don't want to be fast.
Yeah. We'll get our.
You need some sort of alarm though if you're gonna be buying. I like that. I guess didn't we talk about Ethereum last time and how we both were kind of soured on Ethereum?
I don't
remember. If you have any other feelings about this, but like I'm very bearish on Ethereum just because it doesn't play nice. I'd rather be in Bitcoin, is what it comes down to.
Well, I certainly would rather be in Bitcoin now, like the one that's been at new highs, and I don't know, my views on the cryptocurrencies, and for the most part gold, is they're only worth something because we think they're worth something. So the more we think they're worth, it's kind of like momentum stocks. The more we think they're worth, the more potential they're worth. And Bitcoin had been working, and Ethereum hadn't. Here, I'm going to tell you when the stock market's going to bottom. I'm going to tell you the exact day. Pull up the chart of gold.
Gold, where are you? There you are. Oop.
Gold's going to get back to that 50-day moving average, 2750. It'll probably be at about 2800. That'll be in a week or two, and that'll be the market bottom for sure.
I need a button. I need the alarm button for that too, because that was
the market will go to new highs. And I got nothing wrong with gold, but we talk about. I can't say this enough. Gold's just an asset, man. Like, it's just, it'll act a certain way when the world comes to an end, or people really think it's coming to an end. What's gold doing? All the momentum stocks are getting killed, and guess what's happening? Gold's getting hit hard. Why? Because it's a momentum asset, folks. Like, you're not 20% above your 50-day moving average and not a momentum asset, unless you just doubled your earnings. And gold's earnings did not just double.
Yeah, they don't report for a while. We were talking about gold last time on here, and we were talking about how it was a little bit overextended, and how I like silver more for a catch-up trade than anything, and that's getting sucked down here too, which also makes sense. But yeah, excellent call on that. Because I see it the same way. Like, let some air out of this, let it come back down here. It's a momentum play, like you were saying. Yeah.
I mean, and look, there's a lot of times that gold isn't a momentum play. But look, this is the other. So what is a momentum stock? It's what was the Supreme Court justice said? I don't know what pornography is, but I know it when I see it. I'll tell you what a momentum stock is. Anytime you have a stock and you just made 20, 30, 40, 50% in less than 2 months, or you go, wow, I just made a lot of money, then that's probably a momentum stock. And you need to start treating it as such, because it can really, one thing I've seen this happen with Talon, actually. Talon went from this like unknown, like coming out of bankruptcy, not covered by anyone. And look, I always thought Talon was going to 300 back when we first talked about it with folks at $60 a share. I just didn't think it was going to 250 in 12 months. At some point, Talon became a momentum stock. I mentioned that because on one side, that's awesome. You owned something, you owned it for the right reason. Well, there are no right reasons. The right reasons that goes up. But like, you owned it for a very sound thesis. And then you end up getting paid so much more than you planned. You got 3 years worth of returns in 1 year. But what's super important is that when that happens, you change your trading methodology. Because if you trade it the way you would trade it if you were making 300% in 3 years, you are going to be it's a very dicey situation. It can be very, very complicated. So, but let's get back to what do I think. Let's talk about what people should be doing here, and we can go through some stocks. Look, folks, if you didn't know momentum stuff, you probably haven't had a bad couple of days. Mm-hmm. We're coming off new highs last week. The world is good. Rates are going in the right direction. Inflation's, not moving around that much. It feels like there could be some breaks in some of the clouds that are out there. And if you own the momentum stuff, well, you should have taken some profits 3 weeks ago or 2 weeks ago when you're at all these crazy highs. I'd say if you didn't own it, start linking into it. If you did, hold on and, buy the things that are doing really great, because we're still in a bull market for now.
Yeah, absolutely. Just thinking more about stocks that interest me and things that are more along your wavelength too. I was thinking about echo trades in a situation like this. And it feels like, some of these stocks, and like I always use ARK as my hype proxy right here. Some of these stocks are getting the hard reset along with some of the other momentum names, and I get it. But at the same time, I'm still kind of watching some of these big bases. Are there any big bases you think are going to do better than others right now? Or
Well, ARC's a great, yeah, pull that 5-year chart up on ARC. You know, look, you know what the healthiest thing I've seen for this bull market is that 5-year chart on ARC, quite honestly.
Mhm.
And why do I say that? Well, with that chart on ARC, with that 50 and 100-day moving average so steep in the last 3-6 months, and you know the arc so extended from those moving averages, I get concerned. I get like, squishy. But
Sure.
like this correction that's happening in the momentum names, to me, is the best thing that can happen for the market. And look, I think ARC's actually a great poster boy for this, or poster girl. Whatchamacallit. The for this, individual stocks will be all over the map. Twilio was one that was setting up really nice, and then they missed a number and
Right.
got hit. But actually Twilio, the charts held in pretty well. So I think the echo trades are still on.
Very similar chart to just ARC in general, the Twilio with the gap up and then the gap down, got a little island there. But yeah, I mean, kind of same idea. Like the base is still intact in a lot of these. It's just resetting back down to those resistance levels turn support, like we see on ARC right here. I mean, I just drew a line, and I mean, the line is not magic by any stretch of the imagination, but you can see here how it could easily find some time to churn down here and reset in this 54, maybe even down to the 52.50 area right here, and nothing would be broken about this base, really. I wouldn't be like upset about it. And longer
This is where we are right now, is such a parable for the importance of selling high in bull markets and momentum markets. Because imagine if you had sold half your Palantir. Imagine if you took Palantir and did what I said and sold 40-60%, a week ago or 2 weeks ago. Now, had you sold 60% 2 weeks ago, by the way, you would have lost out on some gains, like some paper gains. But you know what you could do is you could go buy it back, and after you've had the good number. So I can't tell you enough to really optimize your profits in a bull market. Sell high is as important as buy low, but it's not for the reason you think. It's not risk management. It's about being able to have the dry powder to take advantage of the opportunities when they present themselves. Because right now, I think off the back of last week, I think that a lot of people, off the back of last week, people were probably all in. Markets at new highs, all this other stuff. And like when the market's at new highs, I want to have cash. That's actually where I want to be, especially when I see things like Palantir and Hood going off. That's when I want to have at least some cash, so I can buy them and be ready. So, sell high, and sell high is harder in a bull market than buy low.
Oh, extremely. Yeah.
And I think
you get the FOMO. You get the, it's like you desperately, you subconsciously, you want every last tick of that stock. And then you're like, if I sell, it's just going to go higher, is how you talk yourself into it.
Palantir's ground zero for that. It's the FOMO stock, right? Is like everyone who, there's people who probably made 100-200% in Palantir from last year into early this year. And they were probably all pulling their hair out because it went from 80 to 125. They're like, "Oh, I messed up." No, you didn't. Don't turn a win into a loss. Book your wins. That's what really great traders do. Is I try to every time constantly put myself in a position of winning psychology. Mm-hmm. Because if you get a negative losing psychology and getting caught in your losses and it's just a downward spiral, and then you get behind the ball and you're chasing and things like that. But I think this is a really interesting opportunity right now.
Well, yeah, like you were saying, I mean, we can go back and I can come up with all kinds of little scenarios where, like, let's pretend that I was holding PLTR, here as it's consolidating. And I'm like, you know what? I'm up however many 100%, 200% in a very short period of time right here. I really want to take profits before earnings hit. And you take profits before earnings hit right here, and then it gaps up 25% or whatever on earnings. And then you're like, oh no. And you could get yourself in a situation where you're like, well, I'm going to buy again right here since I missed that rally right there. And then you're stuck in this cycle of crap where you you sold out here and then you buy on the gap higher right there, and then it turns south on you, when in reality you were doing just fine just selling right there. Yeah, you missed that little run right there, but look, we're right back.
People saw this with the Maverick that we launched in after the election, and right into the little year-end top that happened 2-3 weeks before, when the Santa Claus rally didn't happen.
Yeah.
And then we lost money. We had 13 positions. I want to say 12 of 13 were down by the first week of January. And the one that was up 1%. And I was jumping up and down like a kid in a candy store. I was like, this is awesome. It's like, because I have myself in a winning psychology. I've got the experience, etc. And by the way, we booked now, I want to say 11 of 12 winners or something. I mean, got some things that are losing money too, don't get me wrong. But, I think it's just, you just put yourself in that winning psychology is going to be the key to all of it, especially in a bull market. Like when we get to, at some point, we're going to be in a bear market. You and I are going to be talking about different things. Okay. And it's really going to color our trading strategies and what a winning psychology means. I've got a whole different game plan, but you got to know where you are. We're not in a bear market. We're in a bull market. We were at all-time highs last Wednesday. So let's trade a bull market like a bull market. What do you do when you get winners that are down 22%, 40% in 6 days? You probably want to nibble. You want to buy some of those. So I was asking for some tickers. We got people coming out of the woodworks. What do you want to?
Yeah.
Which one do you want to take first?
Let's see. Well, we got a bunch here. mRNA is the first one I see from John. Almost type marinara. Must be getting hungry.
This
isn't a downtrend. I'll tell you that.
I have this thing I say to people. Like, the chart looks like death. Don't buy charts that look like death. Period. End of story. So I like this stock better at 60 than I like it here. I haven't even looked at the earnings or anything like that. I just, there's 4,000 liquid securities in the United States stock market. You don't need to own charts like this. Doesn't mean you can't make money in them, but I got to tell you, I like buying stocks that are going up, not going down. And unless you've got some I'm looking at the earnings revisions. It's terrible. This thing's losing a boatload of money, losing more and more money. I just wouldn't touch this.
From a purely charting perspective, like fundamentals aside on something like this, I look at a chart like this, and the two things it's missing for me are an actual higher low, which this really doesn't count. This little bump after earnings right here. I want to see the ebb and flow of the market and an actual higher low here, and then I want to see it actually come up and break out above this level, And I know that's a little bit counterintuitive, maybe if you're not a technician or used to looking at charts, but I would feel a lot better buying this stock at 50 than I would at 34.
And so what this is exactly what I said is at 50 or 60, it becomes interesting. And then I added on the earnings revisions. But I got to tell you, when I see a chart like this, I already knew what the earnings revisions were going to say. I never see a chart like that and earnings revisions that are going like this. That's not a thing. I would just stay away. The most bullish thing you've got about Moderna, I'll tell you what it is. You got 11.85% of the float is short. Short interest is 43 million, up from 20 million about 10 months ago. You could get a squeeze. But
absolutely.
Life is too short. We got enough things to deal with in the universe to not have to deal with stocks like this in our portfolios.
We need a sound effect.
Sorry, John. Yeah.
Broadcom, AVGO. This looks like it might interest you. Enrique, do you have an opinion about this?
Well, yeah. This is one of these Momo stocks that broke out. The only thing I don't really like about it is we're still have a little bit of the gap behind us, underneath us. That gap area is at 180. We're at 201.
Yeah.
But these are the kind of things you want to be buying right now. And the earnings revisions are just a thing of beauty. They're just incredible. So I would. And this is hard. This is why I was talking about selling high before. It's in January, in the first week of January, I kind of feel and I know this from my portfolios, I would have been 80, 90% invested. by last week, I would have been 50 or 60% invested. A lot of that's just taking profits. I mean, we've taken profits on a dozen names in the Maverick. We're still ramping up and all that. This is one that I would put on the buy list, but it's sort of this like, I'm going to buy 10 of these and they're all going to work, but I might lose 15, 20% before they start working. But the reason I still buy them, this is what I was saying about linking into Bitcoin, is because there's a 50% chance they just pop right back in a day or two. So you don't want to miss out on that trade. This is how you trade a bull market.
All right, let's see what else we got
here. We got a lot of tickers. We can never keep up with this.
Palo Alto. A little bit of a false breakout there, but it's definitely resetting, I would say, going straight down since last Wednesday. A nice week's worth of losses there to stack up for you. But
yeah, go ahead.
Not broken, really. I mean, I don't know if I'd buy it here, but uptrend is intact.
On the chart, it's fine. They missed numbers when they reported a couple weeks ago, and the stock still went to up towards a new high, which was impressive. I think it's fine. And look, I think everything momentum is a little bit of a buy right now. The earnings revisions are fine. It's not as momentum oriented as Broadcom. I think it's good. So we'll say Moderna, no. Avgo, pretty attractive. Palo Alto, fine. How about that?
Fine. Not exciting, but fine. Okay, that's fair. Well, maybe we need sound effects for our ratings too.
Yeah, exactly.
I'll get on this. I got to figure this out.
You know what we need? I don't know if you've seen this on WhatsApp.
Did somebody's caps lock just fail? Is it Dell that we're asking about, DEI, or is it DELL? I'm assuming it's Dell because there is no.
So it's Dell. Can I tell you something though? I use WhatsApp for a lot of my businesses, and there'll be times where I'll just make like a symbol like this on WhatsApp, and all of a sudden it does a little heart. That's nice. What we need. That's what we need on top trades. We can just do like a little bull sign, and a little bull will come, something like that. So
yeah,
we'll get the tech people on that.
Yeah, definitely. Dell, I feel like this one needs more time. I mean, it's like a messier version of a lot of the chip stocks to me, like topped out in the spring, summer, just wide ranging swings right here. And now we're kind of just stuck in the middle of the spin cycle where it's directionless, and we're going into this too.
Dell is saying the same thing that some of the semiconductors are saying. It's basically playing out my NVIDIA thesis, which is that we are Cisco 1998 or 99 right now with data center buildouts. Okay. That's what Dell stock is saying to me. And what does that mean? That means that AI is going to the moon. We're going to need 100 times more data center than we have, but we literally just spent, 8 quarters building out the most data center that we've ever built out times 5. And, there's a digestion period. And that's what NVIDIA stock is doing. NVIDIA stock's been digesting for 8 months. Dell's been digesting. And I think that the jury's very much still out about whether that digestion is going to end up with indigestion, is going to end up with, having to sit out the party for a year or two. I will say this. I think in the next 3-6 months, it's going to be good because we literally just got through every single CapEx out of the hyperscalers, and they all grew at 20%. So I think it's good for a trade. I have concerns. I think that's gonna be what takes this market down, in my opinion, for a period of time. And for the lengthy correction is going to be the NVIDIA. I said this before. I said NVIDIA will lose $1 trillion. It did. I still think it's going to happen. I think it's pushed out a little bit, but that's going to be the digestion period. That's when we get the S&P down 12%. In a real correction. Is going to be off the back of NVIDIA and Dell will get cut. Dell will drop 30% on that. So I'd be careful with Dell.
Can you give us the exact date for that so I can just write that down so I can be ready?
So it is going to happen. Hold on. No, wait. I got you here. Okay.
I was joking.
So, no, I'm not joking. Okay. So NVIDIA, the next earning report is going to be May 22nd.
Okay.
And I'm going to play. So I'm just going to be strategic here. Okay. I'm going to say that between May and August, sometime June, July, August, we're going to see that correction happen. It's going to be on the
great
back.
time for that to happen too. We can all go to the beach.
I'm doing seasonals. Like I'm going seasonals.
Yep.
So they get one more beat out of them. But then what's going to happen is we're going to be looking at the back half spend. Because if you're Microsoft, you're Meta, you're all these companies, in the next 3 months, you're not going to be redoing your data center spend. You're not going to do that. But you know what's going to happen when you get into May, into June? You're going to be like, okay, we got through the first half of the year. Now I need to start thinking about the second half of the year. I think, so I'm going to call June 15th. There you go. This is the day that begins. 3 weeks after the NVIDIA second quarter and or Q1 2026 for them. And I think we get a nice correction into the fall off the back of the AI stuff. But it might be from 15% or 20% higher on the S&P,
It's in my official notebook.
Okay.
I better
June
mark
15th.
June 15th.
Right, so where are the Yankees? Who are the Yankees playing on June 15th? Let me look at that.
Hopefully not the Orioles. I don't need that type of intersection in my life where it's stocks and baseball.
Anyways, that's Dell. So I'm not like all that excited about Dell. You can do better.
That's fair.
Yeah,
that's fair. And I feel like we'll get more clues on NVIDIA from the hyperscalers moving forward too. So we'll be able to update that. It's not, I know I'm just messing around.
Well, no. But I think what's going to happen, actually, the Yankees are June 15th is a Sunday, so maybe it'll be that Monday. Okay. No. I think that the hyperscalers report again in only 9 weeks, believe it or not, or 8 weeks. And I think they're going to come out blazing. And I think NVIDIA will come out blazing on that second quarter, but it's just going to, I know this all sounds like voodoo. There's a company's budget in certain ways. And so there's a reason why we see seasonality the way we do. There's a reason why we sell off in October. The reason we sell off in October repeatedly is that's when companies go through their first half and recalibrate for their second half. And if there's going to be any concerns, that's when those concerns emerge. It happens in a period where people are away, that's sort of August, September, because that's actually, it's not October. October is when the market bottoms. September and late August are when the market get killed. Yeah. And so, and I know I'm skipping around here, but it's important to have this playbook in your head as you're thinking through, because we're constantly thinking about what are called binomial trees. Like this could go this direction, this could go this direction. But I'm going to leave with this right here. We're in a bull market. A bunch of great things have just pulled back a ton. Start picking some spots and start buying some stocks in some of these great momentum plays, is my opinion.
Yeah, I like it. All right, let's see. We have time for a couple more here. INTL? What is this?
No, I think they meant INTC.
They meant okay. Yeah.
Yeah, that would be my guess.
That would make more sense.
Yeah.
Working on a base. Still working. Might need some time. I'm not super.
Look, this gets into this intersection of technicals and fundamentals. From a technical perspective, there's nothing to do here. From a fundamental perspective, now you got a nice base. There's a lot of things moving around. It's intriguing. Of all the things we've discussed, Abgo is the most interesting. I actually might say Intel's the second most interesting.
Okay.
Because of the potential catalysts that are out there fundamentally.
Yeah. I think it could be interesting just because if we are in a situation where we're going to get further rotation in this market, then we might have some money that's poking around looking for some of the stuff that's not anywhere near its highs. So maybe it could benefit from that.
Well,
I know it's probably
and that's hold on. Just so everyone knows, we're going to do. I'm recording the Maverick call soon, and I'll go through every one of the positions of the Maverick on the Maverick call. That's exactly the point. Is that we're seeing breadth expand. Look at some of the losers. Look at what Boeing has done this year. So actually, you want to understand what could happen with Intel. Look at Boeing. Okay, that's had a nice little run. Look at Nike, starting to get a little bit of a bid underneath it, barely, but like,
I'm very interested in Nike actually. Now that you mentioned it, like I've been watching it like a hawk here.
this is, by the way, that Nike chart is the Intel chart. You know, they look the same to me. But this is healthy for the market. Echo trades are working. These things are working. Momentum stocks are having big whatchamacallit, corrections. This is all healthy. And the last thing I'll say about this is, because I think this is one of the hardest part for folks, you got to think in 20, 30, 60, 90, 100-day increments. Because if you're thinking in 2, 5, or 10, you're just going to get whipsawed constantly. But if you're thinking about this is a bull market, and the bull market goes up and down, and it does it in these 20, 30, 90-day trends, okay, then you're going to be able to catch the waves. You're going to get off the wave at the top and get in the wave on the bottom, and it's going to be actually a fun ride. But if you compact your time frame, you're just going to be miserable, and you're going to get whipsawed, and then you fail.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's see. I think we have time for one more, and it's a good one. FXI. I don't know if you've heard of this country, China. This new market, new to the scene. I think China goes higher from here, a lot higher. Is my opinion on this. I think it's going to be in play this year, all year. It's outperforming U.S. markets year to date. I do think it's going to get sold hard a couple times, maybe more than a couple times, because that's what happens. But yeah, I mean, I like China a lot right here. I like FXI. I think I don't know if I would be like super eager to like buy right now, because I think if the market continues to be a little bit weaker, people are going to sell their recent winners and they could get clumped in with them. But I do like China.
I have many, many concerns about owning Chinese stocks that date back decades. Remember that when you own a Chinese stock, you don't actually own anything. The Chinese government owns it. Yeah. They could take it away at any time. Every single one of these ADRs could go away. And I think we were at a point actually in 21, 22 where that almost happened. That being said, I like Chinese stocks right now as a speculation. Is if you just have to understand that there is a group of exogenous factors and shocks that could happen, and just be prepared to pull the trigger really quick. But from a pure like sentiment, positioning, growth, value, I think it's very intriguing, and I think we could see a major move. Could we? But by the way, pull a larger chart of the FXI up. Basically, a type of echo trade.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So I would wait for it to pull back to these moving averages. I like the 30 level a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And then, I think you got a good trade. And there's some really interesting individual stocks in there too.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, I think that they could be good trades. Like I said, I think it's going to be in play a lot this year. Let's see if we have time for one more. What else we got here? FTNT, that's kind of similar to PANW, isn't it? What about GTLB? Is that GitLab? Yeah. It's getting the reset here. It has earnings coming up. Looks like real soon, Monday. Potential nice numbers there.
Yeah, they've been beating numbers pretty soundly. And they have.
I'd like it over 75. Get it back to 75. How about that?
I'll tell you what. Good earnings revisions. Been beating numbers. Pull back on a base. For my strategy, which is a little bit different than yours, I think it's a really interesting speculation. But everything that's momentum oriented has gotten to be an interesting speculation in the last 48 hours or 70. Yeah. The last 3 trading days, because this stock was at on Wednesday was at 72, and today it's at 60.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened in 3 days, but I don't think it lost 15% of its value in 3 days. So if they're going to beat numbers and they've got rising numbers, I think it's a good bounce candidate.
Yeah. I can't argue with that. All right, guys. Well, that'll just about do it for today.
Cool.
Thanks for submitting all your tickers, Enrique. I thought that was some really good discussion here, bringing some sanity to a little bit of an,
Well,
I don't want to say uncertain market, but a little bit
I,
of a corrective market here.
I said to a buddy of mine the other day, I said, I think one of the keys to the markets is listening to the music and not the vocals and not the lyrics.
Yeah.
And I think it's really easy to listen to the lyrics, but what really counts is the music. Like that's actually the composition. And just don't forget where we are. So one quick thing, folks, I'm gonna because I'm doing a little bit of traveling. We are doing the Maverick tomorrow, but if you have any questions for the Maverick, and if you don't mind, Greg, if you all want to throw them into the chat, I'll take a whole bunch of questions that I'm going to answer in the Maverick. If you want to put them in the chat here for the trading desk, and we'll address all those questions on the what we're going to do for the Maverick. So
Awesome. Well, thanks for joining me today, Enrique. Safe travels this week, and I will see you back here next Tuesday, right?
Yes, sir. Awesome. Thanks, everyone. Have a
Awesome.
great day.
Take care.